Shalom, everybody. Today we'll talk about the personal requests during the Amidah. And if you remember, we said that there's 13 blessings in the middle of requests, which are usually national, but he'll explain a little bit more. So on Shekinah Tegillah, the men of the Great Assembly, in their wisdom and divine inspiration, included all the ideal aspirations of the people of Israel in the wording of the prayer. They meticulously chose every word until a perfect wording was established. With each, the Jewish soul can express itself before its creator in the most supreme manner possible. Even so, if a person wishes to add requests of his own in the middle of brachot, he is permitted to do so. However, in the first three blessings, which are intended to praise Hashem, and in the last three, which are intended for thanksgiving, it is prohibited to add personal requests, so as not to detract from their general purpose. Besides that, there's a passage in the Talmud where this person was the Chazan. At those days, nobody had a Siddur. It was just everybody read whatever they remembered by heart, and if a person was a Chazan, then they had to rely on him that he remembers exactly everything. But there was one Chazan that said, instead of just Ta'el Gadol Gibor Ra, like we talked about 2 days ago in the first blessing, on Friday, he added Izuz, Venorah, all kinds of other descriptions of Hashem's power. And after the service, the rabbi that was there, I forget his name, the Amorah, he said, "Is that all you can praise Hashem?" So he looked at him in confusion. What are you talking about? He says, well, you added all kinds of words that our rabbis did not add. And so they basically came to the conclusion that Ha'el Gadol Gibor Vanora, those four descriptions or manifestations are what Moshe Rabbeinu said, and that's what we stick with. Because if we started saying all kinds of other praises, we would basically be limiting Hashem instead of adding to the glory of Hashem. So the personal requests permitted in the middle brachot must be related to the theme of the bracha. For example, if a person in one's household is ill, one should pray for him or her in Birkat Rafa'in. If a person is in need of livelihood, he should request that in Birkat Hashanim, which is the 9th blessing. And of course, it would be really weird if you started saying Refuah Shlema in the 9th blessing instead of in the 8th blessing and vice versa. So that's what he's trying to point out. If he wants his relatives to make Aliyah, he should pray for that in Birkat Mekabetz Nitchayam Israel, the 10th blessing. However, out of all the brachot, Birkat Shumei Tefillah is special. In it, one may make all types of requests, since it includes the blessings of requests. It includes all of them. When one adds his own personal repetitions, he begins reciting the established wording, and just before the concluding sentence inserts his request. So I'll just tell you that from personal point of view, when I was in Israel and the government was really actively pursuing religious people, I added in the 11th blessing, Vaser Mimenu Mamshala Ra'ah, which means a bad government. And that's not to say that specific government was right, but Hashem, I think, knew what I was talking about, and so that's why I added it there. Not only is it permissible to make personal requests, but according to many, it is desirable to do so, since the personal prayers that one adds emerge from the depths of his heart and arouse kavanah. Like Hannah was praying from the depths of her heart, and she said, "Ani marat nefesh," that I'm embittered in my soul. So her body, was happy, but her soul was troubled. Nevertheless, it is advisable not to prolong one's personal appeals in the Amidah, not even in the bracha of Shema Tefillah, because the essence of prayer is directed towards the needs of the whole community as a whole. And when numerous personal requests are added, the communal character of the prayer is slightly altered. It is best that one who desires to add more personal prayers does so after he finishes reciting all the brachot and says Yule Ratzon, since everything recited after that is not considered to be the main part of the Amidah. Rather, it is a relevant supplement to the prayer for as long as he has not yet taken the 3 steps backwards, which we'll talk about tomorrow. He still stands before the Holy One, blessed be He. And so in that bracha, there's a famous Yehi Ratzon talking about basically training myself to not be angry during the day, to not have any bad thoughts about anybody else, just like I'm asking Hashem for them not to have bad thoughts about me. And that's where some prayers that are more personal should be added. And again, there might be requests that aren't included in those 13 blessings, so that will be the right place to add them. A person must express his request in Amidah properly. Therefore, when praying for an ill person, it is correct to mention his or her name. Lechatchila, it is good to mention the name along with the mother's or father's name. However, if the sick person is next to him, it is unnecessary to mention his name, for his intentions is clear. So, just about that last blessing, or that last paragraph, when we're praying for somebody sick, first of all, my custom is to also add non-Jewish people that I know, and so I don't usually know their mother's name. The reason for the Ashkenazi custom for the mother's name is because the mother is seen as having more compassion about um, about somebody's needs, especially if it's her son or daughter, as opposed to the father. And when we mention somebody for El Rachamim, that prayer for somebody who passed away, we actually mention the father. That's the Ashkenazi custom. The Sephardi custom is to mention in both the mother's name, also for the person deceased, and basically just stick to the minhag that your parents did, or find out what your community prefers, because of course we're allowed to mention both names. We're allowed to say, just their first name without even knowing what their last name. And this is something that I've been doing for the last 2 or 3 months. And our family doctor was a good Catholic boy, as I like to say, and he died at the age of 80. But his partner, even in the obituary, they didn't say what her maiden name is. So I'm just praying for Margie, and I don't know any other way to say it, but I know that Hashem knows that that's who I'm praying for. And that's what he said here, which is that if you're standing next to the person, it's not needed to mention the mother's name. And so it's just basically to cover all your bases and to be able to do it properly and respectfully. Of course, like I said, there's other prayers and other blessings that you can add things to it based on your personal requests, and that's why it's all those personal requests are in the singular, not in the plural. But we end every single blessing in the plural because we're hoping that the power of the minyan that we are part of will have that effect and bring that request to Hashem as soon as possible, and also with the most powerful intent, because each one of the people in the minyan contribute to how it's brought up to Hashem. And we'll stop here. Questions, comments?